teams are ready, the drivers are ready. We are back for a brand new season of the F1 journey. It is the 9th season of the F1 journey, and pre-season gets underway here at the Yas Marina circuit at Abu Dhabi. Formula 1 has decided to take Formula 1's pre-season testing over to the Yas Marina circuit. The Yas Marina circuit has been known for hosting the post-season test, specifically the Young Drivers Test. Now, Abu Dhabi is set to go through some track modifications, and they stated that they needed to take the season off in order to get those in place, meaning that they were happy to host a pre-season test before they got the modifications underway. And that's exactly what they have done. So without further ado, let's go see the teams and the drivers, where they're all mixed up to, have a look at the brand new liveries, and see who's got the best package heading into the new season. The first car to hit the track in pre-season testing was Porsche, and as you can see, they've retained their silver and red Vodafone livery, with a little bit of extra red being added to their car. Carlos Sainz has made the switch from Ferrari and has joined Porsche on a multi-year deal. Of course, Carlos Sainz was involved in a massive saga with regards to contracts over at Ferrari, and it's something that he was really upset with and decided to leave the team, and this is where he's ended up. He's gone to Porsche and he has decided this is his next chapter. Valtteri Bottas remains with the team to make it Bottas and Sainz all together at the Porsche outfit. Nico Hülkenberg was very influential in persuading Carlos Sainz to come and join Porsche. Of course, Hülkenberg is the man that's no longer driving for Porsche anymore, but Hülkenberg is now a senior personnel member over at Porsche, and it is something that he said was very important that he got himself a statement with regards to his new role, and getting Carlos Sainz in was exactly that. He doesn't believe Carlos Sainz will have it all his own way during this season, but he hopes if he stays for multiple seasons to come, he can assure him that he's in for a good time. Porsche are very happy with their running here in Abu Dhabi actually. They had a very good and successful test. However, they've still got a lot of time to fight, and hopefully throughout the course of the season they can go ahead and fight. Next up, it's the team in green. It is Aston Martin, and they are back ready for a brand new season, and they've got a brand new driver on the grid and a brand new man into Formula 1. Theo Porcher replaces Robert Schwartzman as the Aston Martin team, with Oscar Piastri staying on for another season at Aston Martin. Speaking of Robert Schwartzman, Aston Martin have once again come out in pre-season testing and confirmed that Robert Schwartzman refused to pay the money that he promised that he would pay to the team to join Aston Martin. Now, Aston Martin were in a position where they weren't doing brilliantly on finances, but they definitely weren't in a position where they were sincerely struggling. However, Robert Schwartzman knew that one of the best ways to get himself into the team was to inflict a set of cash into the company. And Aston Martin were very reluctant at first because they weren't really interested in being that sort of team that takes on paid drivers. However, they thought they would give it a chance and just see what happens and give Schwartzman an opportunity. It just didn't work out. Schwartzman just wasn't putting in the performances, despite the fact that he was the driver that got Aston Martin the points last season. That was only in one event, and for the rest of the season, it was all down to Oscar Piastri to carry the team forwards. So, on that note, you kind of got to say that it is the right decision on what they've done. Aston Martin, though, have found new gains with their aero package heading into this season. Aston, of course, were a backmarker last season, and we don't expect them to see them fighting all the way at the front this season. However, it does look promising that they've managed to find a lot of performance specifically within that aero package. So hopefully for Aston Martin, it proves to be a stepping stone to moving further up the grid. Next, it's the black and blue cars of Ford as they exited the garage to make their way out for pre-season testing. And as you can see by their livery, no changes on that front, so they decided to stick with what they've got and try and build an iconic livery scheme, and it's basically the exact same thing. However, what's not the exact same thing, as we're going to see throughout the course of this pre-season video, is their driver lineup. Callum Ilott has signed a new one-year deal to stay with Ford for another season, but Stoffel Van Dorn has now joined the team as he has now been dropped by Red Bull. A big surprise there, and it became a big surprise not only to the paddock, but also to Van Dorn himself. He was actually very shocked that he found out that he was no longer going to be continuing with Red Bull, and thought that his performances yielded enough to stay on at the team for longer. However, that was not the case, and it is concluded he has now joined Ford, which also means there is no more Mick Schumacher at the team. So I wonder where he has gone. But of course, we now need to look at Ford and how they got on in pre-season testing, and they didn't get on that well, to be honest. They were still struggling with high-speed aero performance, and they had this issue throughout the course of last season. The Ford car overall is quite a well-balanced car, but it just doesn't yield confidence within the drivers to go and push flat out, and that was something that they were very much noticing whilst they were out there on track. So hopefully Ford can try and put that right and build some confidence into their drivers, because there is a car there, it just needs to be unlocked. When you think of Mercedes, you think the name Silver Arrows, but for the past few seasons, it's not been silver from Mercedes, but it is now. Mercedes-Benz have returned to a silver livery heading into this season. That is all change on that front, and for the driver lineup, no changes there. It is still Nick de Vries and Sergio Perez that remain at the team heading into this season. Mercedes-Benz in pre-season testing are hoping that the second half of the season performance from last season can yield better results for them this season. We saw at the start of last season, Mercedes-Benz were very much on the back foot. They were struggling for overall pace, and they really didn't have a lot of straight line speed, something that they've been lacking for quite a few seasons now. And this is something that they've been trying to put right for a very long time, and it's just not worked out for them. Now, over the course of the past few seasons, Mercedes-Benz and Toto Wolff have come up with a plan in order to try and leap the team back into the successful days that they've had before. Now, this hasn't been the case, and Toto Wolff has now been questioned once again. With Mercedes-Benz not topping the times in pre-season testing, Toto Wolff was once again asked about the driver lineup within the team. Was this the right driver lineup to pick? Are the drivers of Nick de Vries and Sergio Perez the men to take Mercedes to the next level? Toto Wolff refused to comment on this and stated that the reason Mercedes have picked their two drivers once again is because they are good enough to do what Mercedes are asking from them. And that's a very interesting quote to put in there. He also carried on to confirm it was very unfair that all of the press was starting to question whether the drivers were good enough. At the end of the day, Mercedes had a difficult season last season. However, they were able to start to get things right, especially in qualifying. That's where Mercedes really saw their performances leap to a new level. Now, Toto Wolff has said that the team knows exactly what's going wrong with their car, but of course, with every single team this season, the regulation change coming in for next season is really going to divide whether teams go all out this season or whether they put their focus into next season. Next up, it is Red Bull, and they are the team that made the change. Of course, we saw earlier in the video that Stoffel Van Dorn had left the team and had joined Ford, and the man that replaced him is the man that was at McLaren last season. Daniel Ricciardo rejoins Red Bull after a stint with the team previously in his career. He has decided the time was right to go back to the team, and Sam has decided to stay on with the team for another season. Christian Horner has admitted it was a very hard decision to drop Stoffel Van Dorn last season. Of course, Van Dorn put in some very strong performances and almost won a Grand Prix last season at the British Grand Prix. That was until McLaren driver Rees went on and overtook him in the late stages to claim victory in that specific event. However, Red Bull just felt like they needed a lot more firepower moving forwards. They felt like Daniel Ricciardo was very much being left out with McLaren as they put all of their money and resources into pushing Rees to championship glory, which they've done for 2 seasons in a row. And they felt this was the time to bring Ricciardo back, and hopefully they can go ahead and push for not only the drivers but also the Constructors' Championship as well. Now, looking on in terms of the team itself, Red Bull have a very good car, and they had a very good car for a lot of periods last season. Red Bull, though, his aim is simple: get the consistency back within the team. Last season they started off on the back foot, and it took a lot of time for Red Bull to really get themselves into a race-winning machinery. They eventually managed to do that, and it looked to, at a stage, look impossible for Red Bull not to win. But unfortunately for Red Bull, more problems came their way, and this time it was on the stroke of reliability. As Red Bull continued to push hard for performance, they then lacked the ball when it came to reliability, and that bit them in the back, and it cost them dearly. This season, though, they're looking to try and get everything together and build a car that is not only fast, race winning, but also reliable. Now, if there's a team on the grid, when you look at a car and you think, you're always going to know that that car is there. It's Jaguar, because they have swapped to a turquoise blue livery for this season with a little bit of hint of black in there as well, just to try and change it up ever so slightly. But certainly when that car is racing on track, you're going to know that it is there. And Jaguar, however, have retained their driver lineup of Max Verstappen and Lando Norris to take on the grid in this new season. But it's a very, very strange time for Jaguar, because they were in a position, especially last season, when they really just didn't have the consistency compared to other teams. And it was almost as if their race wins that they were getting were very much via luck of the draw. We saw that Lando Norris picked up 2 race wins throughout the course of the previous season, but those race wins were very much luck of the draw style victories. At the Japanese Grand Prix last season, Lando Norris took the victory thanks to the help of the safety car helping him with strategy. At the Dutch Grand Prix, it was once again a safety car that allowed Lando Norris to close up and use the performance of the Jaguar in the wet to go ahead and claim the victory. But Jaguar, they had a fast car, they were just never always there and consistent, and they lacked that throughout the course of the season. So how can they go ahead and improve this? Well, it doesn't look like they have. There's not a lot of optimism with Jaguar heading into this season. Jaguars still have issues with their short run pace. That is what they seem to be seeing on all of their data. Jaguar have definitely had an issue with getting their car working in qualifying, and with the grid so tightly packed at the front of the field, it means that trying to get those overtakes done on track is a hell of a lot harder. And this is something that Jaguar have been finding out. So they've been trying to put their efforts into getting their short run pace to work. It's just not though. Where that's coming from and why it's coming from, we just don't know as of yet. And for Lando Norris, yeah, it doesn't feel so good for him. He actually believes that Jaguar have taken a step backwards. This is something you don't want to be hearing from your star driver. Of course, he was the better of the 2 drivers last season. That could obviously all change this season, but what needs to change really is Jaguar's approach, because at the moment it looks like they're already settling for defeat. Next up, it is the Scuderia Ferrari team, and they are ready to get their season underway here in Abu Dhabi. Ferrari have gone ahead and signed Mick Schumacher after impressing at Ford. We knew that Mick Schumacher had left the team thanks to Stoffel Vandoorne joining Ford, but it was where Mick Schumacher went, and he has been snatched up by Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton stays on with the team at Ferrari, making it a Hamilton-Schumacher affair at the Scuderia. A very interesting partnership. Lewis Hamilton says that he is ready for the challenge of Mick Schumacher. Of course, Hamilton is more than aware of the performances that Mick Schumacher put into that team last season in order to help Ford elevate itself throughout the course of the season, initially putting a challenge on Mercedes-Benz. That was of course until Mercedes managed to find some extra performance and go ahead and streak clear of the team. Ferrari though were actually happy with their pre-season testing. There was a lot of speculation within the team that Ferrari had lost some time compared to the rest of the front runners, but it doesn't seem to be the case. They actually believe that they have found a little bit more pace than what they were originally anticipating, especially from all of their simulations. So both Hamilton and Schumacher are very pleased with what they've got. They don't believe that they're going to be quite up there yet with what they believe are some other teams to be slightly quicker, but they believe throughout the course of the season they can do a better job with development. Of course, Ferrari were out of the blocks last season the quickest car on the grid, with Hamilton claiming victory in his debut race for Ferrari at the Chinese Grand Prix, but it very much tailed off ever since. But they had a strong end to the season again, Hamilton just missing out on victory after losing out to Tom by 3/100ths of a second at the Brazilian Grand Prix. This time around, Ferrari will look to try and build some consistency and give themselves a proper title challenge. Next up, it is the black and yellow Renault, and this time around, it's an inverted livery for Renault. They have changed so that they have now got the primary colour of black on their car with the yellow then on the outer edges of the car, making it the secondary colour, and it is certainly a livery which catches the eye, and one that I personally believe is a very nice livery. There's no changes with the team either at Renault. It is Tom and Gasly staying with the team for another season, and this is something that has really helped Tom throughout the course of this off-season. Throughout the course of his career, Tom has been changing teams very consistently, with the only time that he's ever stayed with the same team for a little bit of time was at Mercedes. Of course, Tom was at Ferrari in his second season of Formula 1, but was quickly removed from the team halfway through, thanks to some managerial changes, which of course again had issues with regards to contracts, as we obviously saw last season with Ferrari as well. Something not going well with Ferrari and contracts. So Tom joined Mercedes for the second half of that season and then stayed with Mercedes throughout the course of his third season in Formula 1. Now of course from there it meant that he had the opportunity to stay with the team for a little bit longer. This means now with Tom staying at Renault for another season will mean that this is the longest period in which Tom has stayed with the same team. And Tom says it is brilliant that he's been able to stay with the team and not have any cause of off-track drama throughout the course of the post-season, meaning that he could have a nice, calm and relaxed winter, come back to the team and try and make it even faster than what it was. Last season, Renault were very much the surprise package, finishing third in the Constructors' Championship and with Tom finishing runner-up in the Drivers' Championship. This was something that nobody really expected, and Renault pretty much managed to stay at the front of the table for a very, very long time and lost it towards the end. And it was something that a lot of the teams never really understood, how they were able to get so much out of their car. Now, Renault were very much happy with their pre-season testing. They were able to keep a lot of their performance and also find a lot of aero gains, which is definitely going to help them as that car really struggled in high-speed corners. Where the car also struggled and where the downside of Renault's pre-season comes into play was their energy recovery system, the ERS. It was very, very poor, and it meant that the two Renault drivers could hardly use the ERS throughout the course of the race. They could use it at the start of the race, then they'd have to wait to their pit stop when the ERS battery charges up more, or if there was a safety car. It was a real big problem, and it cost the team dearly, especially in the second half of the season. Now, there is an update that is set to pretty much fix all of those problems. The downside, it's been delayed. When that's going to come into play, we're not sure, but it's something that's definitely frustrated both Tom and Pierre Gasly, but for now, they'll have to rock with what they've got. Audi have very much become that team that have been so close, yet so far. They very much have been in touching distance of winning the championship for the past 2 seasons, and in order to give them the best opportunity to do that again this season, they have not changed their driver lineup. They have kept with Charles Leclerc and George Russell, and they've dropped their camo grey style livery that was on the side of their car and put it in for a more detailed red and black livery all round, with that extra hint of white in there just to brighten it up just a little bit in there. But going back to where Audi were for the past 2 seasons, Charles Leclerc has been very close to winning the World Drivers' Championship for the past 2 seasons. In the last season, it was a straight fight between him, Tom and Reese for the championship, but that was very unlikely. The McLaren was at an all-time peak, Reese was on absolute fire, and the Audi definitely dropped off at the end of the season. With Leclerc 13 points back, it was very much a tall order to try and win that championship. He also had another opportunity the season before in a 5-way fight between Reese, Tom, Sam, himself, and also Lewis Hamilton. But again, he was unable to clinch the championship. So this season now, Audi have got to do it all over again and try and show to Leclerc that he is able to get that championship. George Russell seems to have solidified himself as that number 2 driver, but he'll be looking to try and make sure that that is not the case throughout the course of the season. But where this gets very, very difficult and quite interesting is why Leclerc has decided to stay with the team for another season. Surely missing out on the championship 2 seasons in a row pretty much solidifies that it might not be the right thing to do staying with the team. But that's exactly what Charles Leclerc has done. He believes the right thing to do is to stay with the team. Audi, however, are not too confident that they have made the biggest gains throughout the course of some other teams on the grid, and they feel like they may actually still be on the back foot like they were at the end of last season. And Charles Leclerc believes, though, this is sort of the case, but he does believe that the team will be able to upgrade that car at a vast rate of knots and give Audi the best possible chance of claiming that elusive Formula 1 World Championship. Last but certainly not least, it is the defending champions McLaren. They are back and they are ready to do it all over again and take a 3rd consecutive Drivers and Constructors title. And in order to do that, they have kept their defending champion Reese, who stays on with McLaren. Reese, now a multiple world champion, has won the championship for the past 2 seasons, and he stays with the team to try and do it all over again. McLaren stick with Gulf for yet another season, so we see that classic baby blue and orange return to the car. but it is a new man that is coming into that team to replace the outgoing Daniel Ricciardo. It is Pato O'Ward. He has made the switch from IndyCar and he joins Formula 1 to partner alongside Reese. Reese has said that he welcomes his new teammate Pato O'Ward to Formula 1, but however, he also admitted in his interview that he has no intentions of leaving the team. Now, of course, as soon as Pato O'Ward was announced to be driving alongside Reese at McLaren, there was a lot of theories going around that this was now very much a situation in which this was the chance for Pato O'Ward to become the new team leader at McLaren. With Reese, of course, winning the Drivers' and the Constructors' Championship, a lot of people were questioning whether Reese still had the mentality to carry on with McLaren for as long as he had. At the end of the day, he's done it all, and he's done it all twice in a row. But Reese says that he had no intentions of leaving and that his focus is firmly set on winning his third World Championship. Now, with Pato O'Ward joining the team, would that put extra pressure on Reese? He admitted no, it was not putting any pressure on him at all, and that he was ready to face any teammate that came his way. Now, for McLaren, they very much had a very rough pre-season test, unfortunately. The car was quick. That was something that was very much concerning a lot of the other teams around them. They definitely had a quick car and expect to see them at the front again. But they suffered with a lot of reliability problems, specifically with their engine. It's something that they need to try and cure quickly, because if that solidifies itself into the season, they could be finding themselves in a position where they've got too many points to claw back towards the end of the season. Finally, the last thing for us to look at is going to be the race calendar for this season. The FIA have revealed that it is going to be a 15 race calendar for the season, with the two tracks that are dropping off from last season into this season is France and Abu Dhabi. Of course, we know Abu Dhabi is going through some track modifications, and France are one of those circuits that are part of a rotational deal, and they're not on there this season. But unlike last season, there will be no replacements. The FIA have gone with a shorter calendar for this season. But let's have a look at how the track in terms of the calendars is going to look then. So we start things off with our Asian tour. It is the Chinese Grand Prix, which will be hosting the season opener, followed by the Japanese Grand Prix. Round number 3 will be taking place in Singapore, followed by our Middle Eastern adventure, heading to Bahrain and then Saudi Arabia for rounds 4 and round 5. We then make the European tour next as we go to the 6th round of the season, which will be the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, with round number 7 being the British Grand Prix. The 8th round of the season will see the cars head over to Imola for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, with round number 9 being the Austrian Grand Prix. The 10th round of the season will be the Italian Grand Prix, followed by the Portuguese Grand Prix, making up the 11th round of the season. The Belgian Grand Prix will be the 12th round of the season, followed then by our American tour, with first of all heading to Canada for round number 13, being the Canadian Grand Prix. Then we head to the USA for round number 14, and then we round things off at the Brazilian Grand Prix for the final round of the season. But that is everything you need to know about the F1 journey heading into its 9th season. We'll see you guys next when the racing gets underway for real at the Shanghai International Circuit. Take care all.